Okay, so like most of you, I woke up this morning to a notification from the Deathgarden page that there had been another trailer that they released. This one's slightly longer than the last and showcasing just a little bit more than the other one did, but I did find some things that I found pretty interesting about it. First things first, let's go over the actual idea of what Deathgarden is. So from the website, it takes place in the near future. It's considered a blood sport that's enjoyed by everyone around the planet, and those are the things that I find the strangest about what's said there. And the reason being is a blood sport. So the last time that we had any sort of blood sport that was actually sanctioned would be the Roman Colosseums and the gladiators and everything that took place in there. So the way that I'm thinking of this game now is that this is sort of like a gladiator style game where there is like a big brute, like say the lion or the man on the chariots, and then you have your gladiators or your runners, or as they're called in this game, that are fighting for survival. During the time of the gladiators were given weapons or were able to find weapons that they would use to combat against the greater force that they were pitted against. Now, as you may have noticed, and I noticed for sure, it did look like the survivors, or the runners as they call them, did actually have some weapons. It looked like maybe it was a melee weapon of some sort for one character, and another character had like a bow and arrow style weapon. This is huge because that would change the style of gameplay for sure and make it very different from Dead by Daylight. What I mean by this is Dead by Daylight survivors are in a third person view, meaning the camera's back here, seeing the back of the character's head or the side of the character's face. You see more of the environment that way, and it does help you against the killer who can only see tunnel vision. They only have that straight where their eyes go, that's it. Limiting this on a survivor could be huge because it means that there's a lot more at stake. You can't see what's behind you anymore unless you actually swivel and turn around. That might make it more difficult, but with the added use of melee weapons or projectile weapon, that could change the game. Okay. So, back to the runners. There is so much that I want to focus on these runners. In the trailer actually looks like a modified gameplay footage. Now, the reason that I say this is because if you boot up Dead by Daylight, there is a cinematic in the beginning, and it's very highly polished. There's a lot of polygons on screen at once. You could see the characters. They sweat and they're running around, and they're doing things that you couldn't necessarily do in the game. That's not a bad thing. It's great. It's great marketing, and it makes the game look great. Now, when you get in the game, you know that it doesn't look like that, and that's fine. This, however, looks very close to how the graphics would look in-game. So seeing the characters do something makes me believe that they actually will be able to do it in the game. For instance, did anyone notice that the characters were actually jumping? There was some sort of cliff, and the character jumps right over it. And then another character also rolls. So it looks like there's going to be some sort of jumping and dodging animations that this game is going to have. And if this is in first person, I think that might be a little strange to have the dodge roll. It might look weird. If anyone's ever seen like first person Dark Souls or something, it looks so strange. But having an ability like that in game is very different from Dead by Daylight. So now off the bat, we're going to see a game that's a lot faster paced. But that isn't to say that stealth is gone, because if you watch closely, it shows one of the characters hidden off by the sacrifice, or the character that's out sprawled like that against the two pillars. So that looks like, the equivalent of somebody being placed on a hook. As I said in my last video, I didn't know if the survivors are going to be working together. They are definitely working together in this one. It did say in teams of 5, even though the trailer only showed 4 player characters at a time, and I scoured through this video. I did not see a 5th player anywhere, and this is counting the guy on the cross. He definitely counts as a player, and it looks like that stealth is definitely still a part of the game. So towards the end of the trailer, we see 2 different characters stealthed off, one very close to the sacrifice and one a little bit further off. We're not actually sure where he is in relation to the sacrifice, but we do see the killer come in, and guess what? He does that famous Dead by Daylight thing that all killers seem to do, and he face camps. He sits right on top of the sacrifice. I thought that was pretty great. They definitely captured the essence of Dead by Daylight in that one. I'm kidding. Okay, so yes, face camping is there, but another thing that I did notice is that each character mask seems to have this small hole on it. Now, with this being a blood sport, it is possible that this is probably a camera for the viewers to watch. And this brings me to my next point. The thrill of the hunt perk icon. Yes, we saw it on the shoulder pad of the hunter or the killer in this particular game. He had it right here. It was big, it was in our face, we got to see it, and that can only mean one thing for survivors, and it's not anything good. It serves the purpose to reduce the efficiency in which survivors can get rid of totems. Are totems going to be in this game? I don't know, but the Thrill of the Hunt perk icon definitely does one thing for sure. And what it does is it connects the universe of Dead by Daylight to Deathgarden. What does that mean? It means this, and this is just my theory and my opinion here, but because this is a blood sport, it's the #1 popular show on the whole planet, it means one thing. It means that the entity is still a present. This might further explain what the entity is, and I believe that the entity is you, and me, and everyone else who plays and watches Dead by Daylight. I know that sounds like a pretty crazy and far out there theory, but if you've ever seen the movie Cabin in the Woods, they also speak of an entity that is there to watch and watches all these tropes happen to these characters. And guess what? It is revealed that the entity is us. And the entity is displeased in that movie by the way that things go down. It's the same thing here. This blood sport is watched by us. We are the entity. We're the ones who keep craving more and more bloodshed or more survivors to win. And it's the same thing, and it's crazy. This is just, again, this is my theory, which might be a little bit out there, but I think that I'm onto something with this one. But back to the camera thing that I was saying, is that hole on the lens there is the camera in which the entities, aka us, will be watching the bloodshed commence. One other thing to note, the rain is a factor that it would probably change gameplay to some degree. I don't believe that it's going to rain every single time that you play Deathgarden, but with different inclement weather in the game, that definitely changes things up. And I do know, as far as it goes, that the land or the area that they've taken place on is called the Garden. And the Garden is a procedurally generated area where the survivors or runners have to escape. Do they all have to escape together? I don't know. Probably not. This is going to be another thing with Dead by Daylight where one of you can get away, or the lot of you can get away, or none of you will get away. And one more thing that I'd just like to just point out is that the area was very sparse, very scarce. There wasn't a lot going on to the area, but that doesn't mean that there isn't some sort of way to find an item or find some sort of weapon for a survivor or even a killer. We don't know. The killer probably already has their main stable weapon. It probably is a different gun for every killer, and you know, like one guy's got a sniper rifle and one guy's got like a Gatling gun, and he's super heavy and can't walk fast. Things like that. It's probably going to be something like that. The survivors, on the other hand, if they find a weapon, they're probably able to use it if they have like certain perks or skills. Just like in Dead by Daylight, you're going to need something that's going to be able to push you into using that weapon. However, with it being set in such a dystopian future, it's possible that there might be some sort of crafting elements to the game where you have to get piece A and piece B and get them together to make something, because it looked like one person on the survivor team had a weapon and the other guys had like maybe just like some sort of stick or baton kind of thing. So maybe you do have to get pieces together to be able to take down the hunter or get rid of the hunter, or even slow the hunter down so that you and your fellow teammates can escape. We're definitely getting very little information on the game, but turning a mountain into a molehill with all the stuff that we are getting. Remember that as the gamers, as the people who enjoy this type of media, we're gonna pick everything apart. We're gonna find everything. Okay, so to wrap everything up about what we talked about today in a nice, tightly wrapped little bow, the masks potentially have cameras on them that show off the blood sport, that show the entity, us, the actual carnage and bloodshed. It is a blood sport that in the near future, it's linked to Dead by Daylight. There is a Thrill of the Hunt perk on the killer. There's face camping for sure. There's definitely going to be that. The area that it takes place in is called the Garden, and it's procedurally generated. There are melee and projectile weapons for survivors, and we're not sure if there's a crafting element to it or if it's like a find element to it. There's jumping, rolling, and crouching shown in the video, which looks like gameplay and not just a simple FMV sequence that takes place before the game. I will be covering everything that I can about this game as it comes out, and I think the game's going to be coming out soon, so you're definitely going to want to stay subscribed. Definitely check the videos out as they come out. This is absolutely not the final one. I know that more information is going to be here within the next week or so, with PAX just right around the corner, and I will try to get some gameplay footage for you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.